Whenever a supervillain decides to switch sides and play for the other team, morally, that is, it always makes for a great story. Whether those good intentions stick or eventually fade and the character reverts back to their criminal ways is always a bit of a mystery, and that's kind of the fun part about it. Today we are taking a closer look at a few individuals in the panels of some of our favorite comics who have done as much, with our list of the top 10 supervillains who stopped being evil. Let's get to it. Starting us off in at number 10, Magneto. Magneto is the X-Men's most iconic villain and one of Marvel's most impressive and dynamic antagonists. And that's because he's a villain with a point. He's fighting for the survival of mutant kind, not wanting to see them succumb to the same kind of fate as the Jewish people that he witnessed during the Holocaust. Sure, he thinks that mutants are the superior race and that humans should be their subordinates, but hey, he can't be perfect. These days he's aligned with Charles Xavier on Krakoa, working together for the sovereign mutant state. No longer is Charles and the X-Men trying to keep the peace between mutants and humans. They are tired of being oppressed and treated as second-class citizens, so they've started a revolution. While Xavier and Magneto have teamed up in the past, there's a new weight added to the events of the mutant world post-House of X, and we can't wait to see where it leads to. Moving on to number 9, we have Juggernaut. When Cain Marko, aka Juggernaut, first hit the scene as an X-Men villain, he attempted to murder his stepbrother Charles Xavier after being powered by the Gem of Cyttorak. Driven by his hate and anger, for a long time, he targeted Xavier and his X-Men thanks to the hardships that he endured and blamed Xavier for in his childhood. But then, he reformed. In the early 2000s, Juggernaut was part of a plan to infiltrate the X-Men to destroy them, but in the process he learned to like the team. He stayed with them, fought alongside them, and even moved on to another superhero team in the aftermath, the Thunderbolts. And at number 8, Lobo. Moving on to a DC character here for this number. Lobo is an intergalactic mercenary and bounty hunter who enjoys murder. Like, a lot. His name literally translates to one who devours your entrails and thoroughly enjoys it. Fun. Debuting in 1983, he was a hardened villain, having committed mass genocide on his home planet, but gradually he transformed into an anti-hero. He was DC's parody of the grim and gritty anti-hero trend that Marvel boasted thanks to characters like Wolverine, Cable, and the Punisher at the time. Lobo was just over the top, but unlike those characters, he's actually murdered Santa Claus, so arguably a little bit more evil. Lobo would eventually join up with the Justice League of America post-New 52. And at number 7, Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy is one of Batman's most notorious Rogues Gallery members, but as an extreme eco-terrorist, she's never really been as evil as some of his other foes. That's because she's actually fighting for a good cause, albeit showing complete disregard for humanity in the process. Turns out she was just kinda misunderstood, because in more contemporary times, Ivy has been depicted as an anti-hero, coinciding with another villain turned hero that'll appear a little later on our list. Can't imagine who that could be. Ivy would also become a member of the Gotham City Sirens, which is getting a cinematic adaptation of sorts that she'll be appearing in too. Now, post-New 52, she has made that full transition into anti-hero, working with the Birds of Prey, and she's spent a whole lot of time these days alongside her on and off again Harley Quinn in the name of heroics rather than crime. And at number 6, Emma Frost. First introduced in the Uncanny X-Men issue 129 in 1980, Emma Frost, aka the White Queen, began as a foe of the X-Men's, but gradually became an ally and eventually a member of the team. She would evolve into one of the X-Men's central characters, being a leader for the team and the school, acting as a mentor figure to many young mutants who walked through the halls of the X-Mansion. While at times she does dabble in a bit of selfish territory, she did psychically seduce Cyclops, arguably in spite of Jean after all, it's safe to say that generally, she's turned a more heroic leaf in contemporary times. She's even rubbing shoulders and making amends with her rival Jean now that the two are on Krakoa together. And that's a big step, people. In our number 5 spot, Venom. For a long time, Venom was Spider-Man's foil, the antithesis of what Peter Parker stood for and a terrifying visual juxtaposition to the beloved web-slinger. After the Venom symbiote was kicked off of Peter, it wanted revenge and found that opportunity in the form of Eddie Brock, a journalist who blamed Spider-Man for all of his failures. Brock would eventually shift into becoming an anti-hero after being forced to team up with Spider-Man to take on Carnage in the 1993 crossover Maximum Carnage. He also witnesses Spidey saving his ex-wife Anne Wang a little later on too, which made a bit of an impact on him. Unfortunately though, Spider-Man, who promised his freedom in return for teaming up, would betray Venom, with the Fantastic Four capturing him and sending him back to prison. Venom, when bonded with Brock though, has managed to stay an anti-hero ever since, despite having some serious trust issues when it comes to Peter Parker, understandably. And at number 4, Otto Octavius. Speaking of Peter Parker, let's take a look at a story arc that had fans quite ticked off. We're talking the Superior Spider-Man story arc and also Dying Wish. You know, that time when Otto Octavius was dying and switched bodies with Peter Parker so that Peter would die and Otto would live on, and then impersonated Peter as Spider-Man, and then apparently improved upon the web-slinger's persona, hence the Superior Spider-Man title? Yeah, that was a whole thing. While at first many were outraged, Peter would be brought back to life, largely thanks to Otto sacrificing himself after learning the values that come with being a superhero. In at number 3, Loki. In more recent times, perhaps thanks to the character's surge in popularity, Loki has gone from being a completely sinister villain to one that readers actually empathize with. His turning point in the comics was arguably when he joined Norman Osborn's cabal and convinced them to launch an invasion on Asgard. But when he realized that the destruction of Asgard was not what he truly wanted, he sacrificed himself to try to save it. He was then reincarnated as a younger version of himself and went through one hell of a redemption arc in the process. Even on the big screen in the MCU's adaptations, Loki has gone from being a villain to being an anti-hero who still has his own best interests at heart, but also kinda saved his brother from Thanos during Avengers Infinity War, so that's something, right? We'll see if in his new television series on Disney Plus if the character decides to kick his more noble persona or not. We're looking forward to it. Up next in our number 2 spot, Harley Quinn. For a very long time, Harley was the Joker's sidekick. Introduced to us in the Batman the Animated Series, Harley was a psychiatrist turned insane by her obsession with the Joker, becoming his sinister sidekick and romantic interest for years, despite that relationship being a very abusive and toxic one. But then Harley went through a bit of a liberation, largely thanks to her growing popularity in recent times, although the shift of Harley separating from the Joker had gone down all the way back during Gotham City Sirens, the series prior to the New 52. Post New 52, Harley would get her own solo series and started dating someone new, and much less toxic, because she literally made her immune to toxins. We are talking about our number 7 spot, Poison Ivy. Harley, though, definitely fits the bill of anti-hero. Girl still loves a little chaos every now and then, that's for sure, but at least she has more noble intentions this time around. And last but not least, in at number 1, Apocalypse. Apocalypse is arguably one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful, enemy of the X-Men. He can do everything. Dude is omnipotent, and also very terrifying. It wasn't until recently, though, that Apocalypse has become one of the good guys, in a bit of a shocking twist, might we add. Post Dawn of X, Apocalypse has actually joined up with Charles Xavier, Magneto, and the rest of mutant kind on Krakoa. He's even changed his name for the occasion, now going by a symbol that's pretty much impossible to pronounce. How would you say his new name? Or do we need to start referring to him as the villain formerly known as Apocalypse? You guys tell me. Alright, there we have it, friends. What other supervillains who stop being evil can you think of? Give us a shout in those comments below and let us know your thoughts and feels. If you guys dug this video, you know what to do. Hit that thumbs up button, share it with a friend, and be sure to subscribe to Top 10 Nerd for more lists just like this. In the meantime, thanks for watching, friends. I'll catch you all in the next video.